Okay, so the final of 4 videos today on German football clubs and their histories. Now, that survey on the channel, I put 4 clubs. We've done 3 of them. We've done Hannover 96, FC St. Pauli and Hamburger SV. Now, that 4th club, which I think is the most interesting out of the 4, does have a major title to their name, is Eintracht Braunschweig from Lower Saxony. Very interesting club. Now, they're founded in 1895. They play at the Eintracht Stadion in Braunschweig. Has a capacity of 23,325. But the interesting thing about their foundation story, they were founded as a cricket club for the summer and a football club for the winter. We're talking about Germany here, playing cricket. Not really something that comes into mind. Now, bit of a social history lesson. Before World War I, the German imperial family with the Kaiser Wilhelm, is actually related to Queen Victoria, who's his aunt. Yes, the royal families of Great Britain and Germany, and in fact most of Europe, are all related because of Queen Victoria and the rest, right? Even the Tsars of Russia are related. So, very interesting social dynamics going on. And in the summer months, many German nobles would go over to the UK and vice versa and holiday with their cousins and their mates, because the German nobility, the British nobility, the Austrian nobility, the Russians, people from Belgium, Holland, Luxembourg, the Scandinavian countries, they're all related really, and they would all go on holiday to various locations around Europe. And at this time, sports clubs are springing up in both working class neighbourhoods and upper class society. Now, we've seen this origin story before with a modern football club. Genova in Italy, cricket and football club is its full name. Sheffield Wednesday, another cricket and football club as well. So what these sports clubs wanted to do was keep their players fit either in summer or in winter. And in this case, why not play both sports? Now, obviously, cricket didn't really catch on in Germany. I think all the First World War sort of kicked off and there was a lot of anti-British sentiment. So the cricket disappears very early on because of the First World War. After the First World War, they never really pick it up again. It's just something that happens. But the club itself today does have other sports departments, much like FC St. Pauli, much like Hamburg, SV. They do have these multi-sport departments, and a lot of these clubs in continental Europe, cricket, no longer one of them. It just is something that happened. The First World War happened, a lot of anti-British sentiment at home with the propaganda. So things seen as British sports, like cricket, sort of go by the wayside. They're not seen as fashionable anymore, never catches back on after the First World War, and same again after the Second World War as well, doesn't really catch back on. Now, the more modern history of the club, there's some key points. They're a founder club of the Bundesliga in 1963. The German Football Federation wants to modernise the German league system, and they try and basically copy the English Football League, which is seen as the most successful league. They decide we've got too many regional competitions, too many semi-pro teams, let's professionalise the game. Let's copy England and Scotland with their league systems, where they're all professional. They've been professional for a long time, and we want to copy their league system. So the Bundesliga is born. They are a founder member. Now, things get very, very interesting. We'll discuss their trophy success later, but things get interesting. So a few years after the Bundesliga, and they're a very successful side at this point, regularly competing for titles, the death of Jürgen Moll, one of their forwards, in a car crash with his wife, shocks the club. There's a lot of these tragedies happening at the time with plane disasters. We've seen that with Torino and Manchester United. And individual players as well are dying in tragic accidents. Yes, transport safety is not as good as it is now. Let's just keep that clear. So Jürgen Moll is killed in a car crash with his wife. Their biggest rivals, Hanover and Eintracht Braunschweig themselves, do a charity match against the Bundesliga All-Star 11 in response to the tragic death of Jürgen Moll. 2 years later, 1971, a big scandal hits German football, the Bundesliga scandal. Now, when we're talking about dodgy payments to players and officials, we normally talk about match fixing and players deliberately paid to underperform. In Eintracht Braunschweig's case, players were paid to overperform and really put a shift in. Back in the day, about 50,000 German marks was a lot of money. So 2 players ultimately were suspended and 10 more fined. Now, I can look into the Bundesliga scandal. I think some other teams were paid to underperform as well, but we'll look into the 1971 Bundesliga scandal. Did impact this club. 2 players were suspended from footballing operations and 10 others were just fined by the German Football Federation. Bit embarrassing for the German Football Federation, considering this is in the build-up to the 1974 World Cup. There were also semi-finalists for finalists in 1970 and finalists in 1966. Highly embarrassing for the German Football Federation. Bearing in mind, the Bundesliga, the professional Bundesliga, has only been around for 8 years at this point, so really highly embarrassing. Now, Further 2 years later, 1973. And this is even relevant today with RB Leipzig, Red Bull, and RB Salzburg in German and Austrian football. They were the first Bundesliga team at the time to have a shirt sponsor, and they wore that shirt against Schalke in their first match of the 73-74 season. The sponsor was Jägermeister, who were the team sponsors between 73 and 87, and German football and the German public went completely balmy over it. They were not happy. It was against the traditions of the sport. No, not many clubs at this point. I think hardly any clubs at this point had shirt sponsors. None in Germany. There were no teams in Germany that had a company sponsoring a team very publicly. They would have the advertising hoardings at the side of the stadium, but to have that public sponsor on the jersey, traditionalists went mad, the German public went mad, the German Football Federation were a little bit not impressed. However, it very quickly caught on, and then most German clubs very shortly after 1973 started to have sponsors on their jerseys. Very few held out. But at the time, shocking. Fast forward another 10 years, 1983, two major things happened. Now, Jägermeister, as I say, the jersey sponsor, the title sponsor of the team, the main sponsor, worth a lot of money at the time, about 1 million Deutschmarks at the time. So in today's money, we're talking, what, 15, 20 million euros, something like that? It was worth a lot of money at the time. Today's money, you just think of that sponsorship deal. In 1983, the club tried to change its name. We're talking about RB Leipzig and how unpopular Red Bull are with their ownership of Leipzig in Germany and their ownership of Salzburg in Austria and the Austrian Bundesliga. The club tried to get itself called Eintracht Jägermeister. Yeah, they tried. The German Football Federation went, no, nein, you cannot do this. They were very, very unimpressed by the attempt to get renamed as Eintracht Jägermeister. And that very quickly became a bit of a battle of wills, and the German Football Federation won. But that same year, another tragedy strikes the club. Now, Lutz Eigendorf had fled East Germany, ended up at Kaiserslautern, in the west, the right west of Germany, right near the German border with the rest of Western Europe, in 1979. He joins the club not long after in a transfer. He's playing for Eintracht Braunschweig at the time. The East German Stasi assassinated him. Now, at the time, it was seen as another tragic motor accident. Obviously, Jürgen Moll in 1969, still fresh in the club's memory. It turned out in 2000, when the Stasi files were all released, that this was a they deliberately tampered with his car, motorcycle, I can't remember what it was. They deliberately tampered with his vehicle, and they did kill him as an act of vengeance against a traitor to the communist cause. Yes, the East German Stasi were running around assassinating people in West Germany at the time. People don't realise in the Cold War it was actually pretty dangerous in Germany. There were a fair few car bombs going off. You had the Kurds with their resistance campaign against Turkey. You had the IRA running around leaving bombs outside of British military bases. You had the Red Brigades. You had what was going. Western Europe was a bit explosive in the 60s to the 90s. A lot of explosions going on, and assassinations. And it was a political assassination by the East German government on a perceived traitor because he defected to the West. That was in 1983. So as I say, this club this is in their peak time. This is when Eintracht Braunschweig are competing for titles and winning titles. And we'll get to their only Bundesliga title in a second. They were runners-up 1 year by a point, and they beat Schalke on goal difference. Borussia Mönchengladbach came out on top, and I think it was the 77 season. 1 point they missed out on the German title. They got second by virtue of goal difference over Schalke, who were the team they played against in that first match with the sponsor on their jersey. You see how this is all working here. This is when Bayern Munich aren't very good, by the way. The 70s, a lot of Borussia Mönchengladbach with the main dogs in German football. Hamburger SV were pretty good. Eintracht Braunschweig were also pretty good, but they only win the one title, and that was in the 66-67 season. So there's all this chaos that they're causing in the early Bundesliga era with their jerseys and players dying and, match fixing. They win a Bundesliga title in all this chaos in the 66-67 season, and that is it. Won and done. And we've seen a few clubs like this across European football and here in the UK which have won the one major title, and that's it. They're done. Villarreal in Spain is a good example. Oxford United and Luton have won the League Cup just the once. QPR have got the one major title. Southampton have the one major piece of silverware. Eintracht Braunschweig, it's the Bundesliga title, and that's it. It's just done. That's done. But they're a very dominant side. They just can't quite win. They could have won a few more Bundesliga titles in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It just didn't quite happen, and that's it. Done. Poof, done. Now, they're rivals. They have some friendly rivalries and some fierce rivalries. Now, their friendly rivalries are with FC Magdeburg, who were once Cup Winners' Cup champions in the 70s from East Germany, Waldorf Mannheim, and Basel from Switzerland. They're friendly rivalries where there's a good bit of banter between the fans when they regularly meet, but they tend to get on. Their fiercest rivals are obviously Hannover 96 in Saxony and VfL Wolfsburg, another very, very fierce rival. Although Hanover fans and Eintracht Braunschweig fans go, this is a press, this is the press making this up. We're not really rivals. They're sponsored by Volkswagen. You know, they're the company team. They're not really rivals. Hanover are our rivals. So there we go. There's a brief history of Eintracht Braunschweig. Really colourful club with a colourful history, and they started out as a cricket club. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts on Eintracht Braunschweig in the comments section below. This four-club journey that we've done today started out as me wanting to do a video on Fortuna Düsseldorf, and I went down a rabbit hole and I found 4 other clubs in the second-tier Bundesliga to do videos on. So there we go. We haven't even got to Fortuna Düsseldorf yet. We will get there in time. But from me for now, thank you very much for watching. This is a bit more of a light-hearted video, but from me for now, it is goodbye, and I'll have some more content for you guys very, very soon.